What's up, guys? It's Preacher back again, and today we're taking a little look at our friend the Warlock. We're going to be playing the Affliction spec. We're going to do the full Monty, guys. We're going to do the big heroic run. Going to run you through all the talents, the reforging and the glyphs, everything you're going to need to get your entry-level Warlock up to competitive DPS, stop everybody QQing at you, keep you in that dungeon, and hopefully top the meters even against those epic geared guys, okay? We're going to do everything we can to make sure your run is smooth. A big thanks goes out to everybody who watched the podcast and helped chipping in with questions. I hope you check that out on my channel. It was a load of fun. The next one is going to be on Saturday the 10th of September around 9 PM GMT, 10 PM CEST. Okay, guys, I hope you check that out. Let's jump into our character. Again, I've brought you the bare minimum Warlock that you will have hitting level 85. Item level 330. This is basically it, guys. To get into a heroic dungeon, you need a 329 item level. As normal with our entry-level characters that we've decided to make, I have not enchanted anything. The bare minimum I have done is just to reforge, okay? Reforge does cost us 20, 30 gold in our blues and our green items, okay? The only epic this guy has is because he's an alchemist. He's picked up the alchemy stone. Without that, we would not have a chance. So you must consider that the rest of the gear is so much worse. We've got the cheap epic gloves. The rest, you can imagine how bad the rest of the gear is just to get up to 330. This guy is lower than what your character's gear is going to be going into a heroic, okay? First of all, what are our priority stats? One, as a caster, spell hit. We need all our spells to be hitting all the time. An affliction is dot spec. Damage over time is what dot stands for. We have got lots and lots of dots. Our dots need to be up all the time, all over loads of things, and we certainly don't want to be recasting them because those spells missed. Okay, we don't want to be getting any resists, partial resists, anything like that by the mob because our hit was too low. Absolutely garbage, so we're going to get as much hit as possible. After that comes our haste. How does haste affect us as an Affliction Warlock? Well, for one, more haste you've got, the faster your dots tick. What does that mean? Does that mean that they all tick faster every time I get a little bit of haste? No, it means that at certain boundaries of haste, we will get an extra tick on our dots. And that is a lot of free extra damage. Haste also affects our global cooldown, so we get more and more chance to cast spells. And our long filler spell, which is our Shadow Bolt, is going to cast faster, so we fit in more Shadow Bolts. So we want to get our hit up, then we want to get our haste. After that, we want to bump up our mastery, which increases our damage over time spells. And as we said, we are a dot class, a dot spec, so the more damage our dots do, the better it is. Our pet of choice as Affliction is the Fell Hunter. Stick everything on auto, let him go and do the business. Don't worry about him in your early days, guys. Not much point in playing around with your pet and trying to micromanage him. Get used to playing the spec itself. So a quick view of all our items. We had some gloves with crit and mastery. Crit's our worst one, so we took our crit off and turned that into hit. Moving down, crit mastery again, so the crit off, turn it into hit. Crit mastery, crit off into hit. We had hit and crit on this one, so we turned our crit into haste. Again, all we want is as much hit and as much haste as we could possibly get. Looking at this gear, you can see we've got some 318s, really 308 items. This is really low geared character, guys. This is really the bare minimum. So if we're competing with anybody in a dungeon, it's astonishing. We're going to really be pushing the boat out to do it. One thing I will say about our Warlock is at the moment, I personally feel the Affliction Warlock has to do far too much work to provide competitive DPS in comparison to the other classes, okay? If you're a very new player and you've got a Warlock or you're thinking about leveling a Warlock, you're watching this guy to think, well, I quite fancy a Warlock because Warlocks are fucking cool, guys. Why? Because we've got badass demons coming out of our ass. We've got all sorts of cool stuff. Warlocks are a very cool class. Affliction, which is currently the top DPS spec from start all the way through to end game, it's the very top DPS spec you can provide. Is a lot of work to manage. There's a lot of things to manage to make sure you're putting out that DPS. Okay, guys. So we're going to go through it all just so you can see. Again, 308 trinkets. I managed to pick up a heroic weapon on a test heroic I did. I hadn't played this class for a long time. Just did a quick run to see if I still knew what I was pressing. So we have one heroic item, which happens to be the weapon. Green 318. You can see how low this guy's gear is. 308 chest. Really is just absolutely bottom of the barrel. I haven't put a meta gem in, quite frankly, because I have no other gem slots in any other item. I could not activate that meta gem if I wanted to. I have no reputation to buy head enchants or shoulder enchants just yet. So this really is balls to the wall, bottom of the barrel, worst character you've ever seen come into your heroics. So if we can put out some competitive DPS, then you can put out some competitive DPS and nobody's going to mind you at all. You might get laughed at as soon as you walk through the dungeon, but that is what our channel and our guide is all about. So remember to subscribe, guys, and check out all the other classes. Let's look at our talents quickly. We've gone into Affliction. Affliction is based, let me just give you a quick run through. Affliction is the dot spec. Lots of dots flying around. Demonology is more demon focused. You get a big, heavy hitting demon, and you fill that in with some extra damage from yourself. But mainly, it's about keeping your demon up and get him do everything he can do. And destruction is a big, bursty spec. Think of it like a fire spec from a mage. Not too dissimilar at all. Big, heavy fire damage. Okay, guys. So we've gone with the dot spec. Let's look at our talents. Doom and Gloom. I love the names of Warlocks. Warlocks are such a cool class. It does bother me a little bit at the moment that Warlocks have to do so much more than other classes to put out similar DPS. Anyway, enough QQ. Moving on, Doom and Gloom. Increase the critical strike chance of our Bane and Agony and Bane of Doom. This is why crit isn't that important to us. We pick it up in talents. So what do we want to use? Bane of Agony or Bane of Doom? Bane of Agony can be put on lots of targets. Bane of Doom can only put on one. So if it's a boss you want to put Bane of Doom on, it lasts a hell of a lot longer than Bane of Agony, so we can cast other spells in the meantime. Okay, that's the idea behind it. So if we've got a big, healthy boss, we're going to put Bane of Doom on that guy and let him just let that dot just do its damage while we do lots of other stuff. Improve life tap. Increase the amount of mana rewarded by your life tap spell by 20%. Why is that a DPS increase? Because the less we have to use a global cooldown to life tap to get our mana back, the more damage we can do casting other things. Okay, guys? Improve corruption, our number one DPS dot. Our corruption is going to do tons and tons of damage. Increases that by 12%. We want corruption up all the time. Jinx. We need to make sure that our mob is debuffed in such a way that we're able to get this 8 weakness to magical damage on all the time. So when we're DPSing a target, we need Curse of Elements up. Remember though, Curse of Elements is what ours is called, but it's also provided by Assassination Rogues by their Poisons and Unholy Death Knights by their Eben Plague. So if you have an Unholy Death Knight or an Assassination Rogue in your group, you can kind of forget about doing Curse of Elements for a little bit. But when we put Jinx on, as soon as we put Curse of Elements on, it's going to jump to 15 nearby enemies within 40 yards. It is the weakest version, as far as I'm concerned, of the spell damage debuff. But never mind, not a problem. Soul Siphon. Increase the amount drained by your Drain Life, Drain Soul spells by additional 6%. Why is that important? Well, Drain Soul is actually our execute ability. We'll get to that talent in a bit. But Drain Soul is no longer just to refresh your soul shards. It's also your execute ability. Okay, guys? We take Siphon Life. When you deal damage with corruption, you have a 50% chance to be healed for 2% of your health. Because we life tap, which means we suck our health away to create mana, this is going to keep our health ticking over and bump us back up, oh guys. So as long as we've got corruption on, we're going to be taking heals. Really makes us a sturdy, solid DPS class. We can look after ourselves very heavily by healing 2% of our total health every time our corruption ticks, which is a lot. So if we're DPSing a lot of ads with corruption on, we're getting a lot of health back. Really nice. We take Eradication. When corruption ticks, we have a 6% chance to get a 20% haste bonus. Really powerful, guys. So we've got our corruption up anyway. We're going to have this proc giving us increased spell casting, which is just going to let us fire off a lot more shadow bolts or refresh our dots a lot quicker. Soul Swap. This is a really nice talent to cleave with. So when instead of having to dot up one target and then cast all our dots on another target, we can soul swap it, which means we'll suck all the dots off our current target, and with our glyph, that means the dots are going to stay on the current target, and then we can swap them to another one. So we've instantly dotted 2 targets. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've got 4 or 5 dots, get them on target 1, press soul swap, and then put them on the other target, which means we've now got 10 dots ticking for the space of 1 global cooldown, instead of having to put 5 more global cooldowns recasting all our dots. Shadow Embrace. Your Shadow Bolt and Haunt spells apply a Shadow Embrace effect, increasing all dot damage done by 5%. This is why we want to open up the fight all the time with a Shadow Bolt to get Shadow Embrace on, and then it stacks up 3 times, so we'll go Shadow Bolt, and then we'll put Haunt on, and get this stacked up really, really quickly, and get all our dots doing as much damage as they possibly can. Death's Embrace. While at below 25% health, your Drain Life heals additional 3%, also increases the damage done by your shadow spells by 12% when your target is at below 25% health. So this is when our execute comes in, and we're going to be using our Drain Soul. Once it gets that big damage buff, our Drain Soul starts ticking for a hell of a lot. It's going to be buffed even more later on. Nightfall. Our Corruption and Drain Life tick gives us a free Shadow Bolt. Okay, we're going to get the big graphic on our screen. It's going to show us we've got a free Shadow Bolt. Just a free Shadow Bolt is extra damage, guys. Really nice. Nice big hard-hitting spell. Soulburn Seed of Corruption. You want this for your heroics. Our Seed of Corruption is our primary AoE spell as an Affliction Warlock. It's a shadowy dot that does a load of shadow damage AoE. It's sort of like putting a bomb on the target. So you fire off your Seed of Corruption, it goes on the mob, and when that mob takes X amount of damage, your corruption is actually going to explode in a big shadowy nova. Once this use Soulburn, which is one of our cooldowns, so we press Soulburn, Then we cast Seed of Corruption. When that explosion goes off, it's going to put Corruption on everything as well. Really nice opener to get our AoE going, and then corrupting all the mobs around us, which is going to give us nightfalls and all sorts of stuff. And also, when it detonates, which it should do in most cases, we're going to refund that soul shard so we can keep continuous AoE going based on the cooldown of our soul burn. Everlasting Affliction. Increase the critical strike chance of your corruption, Seed of Corruption, and unstable affliction by 15%. Okay, so that's when it really comes into losing crit on our gear. We don't want crit on our gear because we're getting it all from talents. And your Drain Life, Drain Soul, and Haunt spells have a 100% chance to reset the duration of corruption on your target. So this is when we're coming down to the execute phase. We're also sort of refreshing that using Drain Soul to do big heavy damage. Pandemic. Your Drain Soul has a 100% chance to refresh the duration of your unstable affliction spell when the target is below 25% health. So when we mix Pandemic in with Death's Embrace and Everlasting Affliction, so our boss hits 25% health and we start Drain Soul, it's not only resetting corruption, it's resetting unstable affliction. That cuts two dots out of our rotation that we no longer need to keep up. Comes our big execute moment, and our Drain Soul is going to be hitting really, really hard. Okay, guys? Haunt, our big in-game talent, a ghostly soul, deals a nice bit of heavy damage. It also increases your shadow damage over time. We want to keep the Haunt buffed up all the time. It's a nice big boost to dot damage. It also resets our corruption while we're just doing normal play above 25%. So every time Haunt's off cooldown, guys, we're going to be firing Haunt off. Haunt can only be on one target at a time, so be wary to try and keep it on the target that's going to last the longest. Okay, and it's also got all dots on because it's buffing all our dot damage. So that's all you need in the Affliction tree. Moving over to demo, we pick up Dark Arts for max DPS. Increases... we're going to be using our Fell Hunter. It increases the damage done by our Fell Hunter's Shadow Bite by 15%. Shadow Bite is going to start hitting really effing hard, guys. Really, really hard. This is why we just let our Fell Hunter go and do his damage. We'll see the damage meter during the Heroic, how much our Fell Hunter's doing. Pick up Dark Arts, a nice big buff to your Fell Hunter. We then move over into Destruction. We get Bane to reduce the casting time of our Shadow Bolt. Our Shadow Bolt's going to be our filler spell. So the lower the cast time is, the more chance we have to fire more off. Nice damage increase. And we pick up Shadow and Flame, increase the damage done by your Shadow Bolt and Incinerate by 12%, and your Shadow Bolt has a 100% chance to cause the Shadow and Flame effect on the target. The Shadow and Flame effect causes the target to be vulnerable to spell damage, increasing spell critical strike chance by 5%. This is why we kick off every pull with a Shadow Bolt. We're going to get a 5% crit. We've got a nice big damage bonus from the Shadow and Flame effects anyway, so we've got a nice 12% damage bonus. We've also increased our crit by another 5% on the target. This is why we don't want crit on gear, guys, okay? Dead easy. Everything works together really nicely. Pick up this talent tree for the starters. One talent we would like to pick up if we're raiding and we don't need Jinx because we've got so many other classes doing our spell damage debuff would be Fell Synergy. You have a 50% chance to heal your pet for 15% of the amount of spell damage you do. 2 out of 2 of that is obviously more. And then, so that just means we can ignore our pet completely. We do have to watch with this basic talent build for Heroics, our pet's health. We don't want our pet to die. If he does die, remember you can soul burn, regenerate your Fell Hunter, okay? Very quickly. Glyphs that we pick up, Glyph of Haunt, increase the bonus damage granted by your Haunt spell by another 3%, another big dot damage bonus. Unstable Affliction, decrease the casting time by another 0.2 seconds, so the less we have to worry about refreshing Unstable Affliction, the faster it is, the more Shadow Bolts we can fill in between. Glyph of Corruption, your Corruption spell has a 4% chance to cause another Shadow Trance. So we have Shadow Trance, which gives us the free Shadow Bolt from talents, and we also have the Glyph, and Corruption is going to be on everything anyway, so we're always going to be firing off free Shadow Bolts instant cast, okay guys? We take Glyph of Soul Swap as Affliction, an important glyph to pick up. Your Soul Swap leaves behind your dots that are currently on the target. The original idea for Soul Swap is that when the mob's about to die, you could soul suck the dots off and put them straight onto the new target. With Glyph of Soul Swap, we can cleave. We're doing caster cleave because we're sucking all the dots off, but in fact, we're still leaving them there because the glyph hasn't taken them and putting the dots on the new target. Glyph of Live Tap, reduce the global cooldown of your Live Tap by half a second. You can see this build is very heavily towards doing things fast with the dots because we have a lot of dots to maintain all the time. We've got at least 4 or 5. So we want to reduce the time. We're going to have to do that. Why is that important for Glyph of Live Tap? Because we do need to Live Tap our mana back. We want to be looking after our mana. The less time we need to spend looking after our mana, this is exactly why we pick up the talents for Live Tap as well, is just so we can do more damage. Casting Live Tap is not